We are recording.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this month's EMDAC, the Emergency Management, Disability, and Aging Coalition. We will be having our lunch and learn, and our presenter today is Ashley Rodriguez. Okay, got it right. Ashley is with the State Fire Marshal, and she is going to talk about fire safety, particularly in winter weather, which we all experienced that last week. Now we're experiencing a lot of rain, but I think this is going to be really good information, and hopefully it'll be beneficial to those of you guys who are participating, and also that you can help to spread the important message about safety to the people that you interact with. So Ashley, without further ado, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Bambi, and thank you all for joining. You just helped me get a good idea of the audience to know that not only are we talking directly to folks about this fire safety messaging, but also considering that many of these individuals are those who, work with those with disabilities or those in the aging community who can share that information. So I'm definitely going to be able to share what I have in both of those respects, if you will. So let me go ahead and share my presentation to get started. While I'm doing that, I'll definitely say that we have, an opportunity here certainly to talk about the cold weather situation, but I definitely also want to talk broadly about home fire safety in general, because we did a great job as a state last year as it pertained to home fire fatalities. The stats were some of the best since I've been here since 2018. And I hate to say it that way, certainly, because any loss of life is unacceptable. But truly, when we're normally looking at losing, 75 to 80 individuals each year, since I've been here, just getting to 60 was definitely a win. At the same time, across the country, there were states that were seeing record highs of losing lives to home fire. So I want to say that that did spill over into our recent cold snap. We did not have any losses of life. We certainly did see, and talking to the fire service, an increase in home fires that did, of course, have home heating associated with them. But all in all, we did not have any fatalities, and we have been taking that opportunity to educate the public about some of these things that we say are those causes, and we saw them time and time again. So thank you all for taking the time today to brush up on those topics, and we'll go right through it. You will see the topic, or really this front page, is called Golden Boot. And we had a wonderful master's program student here about a year ago who helped actually create this program. And it is technically geared toward our older individuals, but I've made some adjustments to kind of broaden it out. But it's a great program, and it's going to cover a lot of things that our older individuals tend to experience in their homes that they may not realize are fire hazards. And so let me actually get this timer going to remind myself to give a break to our interpreter. And so we'll get started here with our first slide, which of course is always call for help. Certainly we like to try to handle situations on our own, but sometimes that can make it worse. I actually had a conversation with a coworker yesterday about a situation in my home over the weekend where my husband was cooking, standing in front of the stove, very much involved in what's happening. And I guess just for some reason was trying to tidy up around the area and decided to put a paper towel near an open flame. And then, of course, we had a fire situation, and his reaction, of course, different than mine, is to, panic a little and blow on that, which then, of course, created an ember situation. And I said, stop, 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 stop. Take a minute, step away, turn the flame off. We'll navigate through this. So in that instance, certainly there's people who want to try to address a situation that can sometimes make it worse. So we advise call for help. Don't try to handle everything on your own. And this is really targeted to our older individuals, because we know that as we get older, our reaction time, just physically as well as mentally, is different. So make sure that you call for help. Any emergency, big or small, fire or medical, the time that you take to possibly try to navigate it yourself, figure it out yourself, could be the difference between life and death. So definitely make it a known sort of reaction to just ask for help. And I'm certainly one person who does not like to ask for help, but I also have that wherewithal that if I'm not in the position and I know time is of essence, I'm going to ask for help. And so this is, of course, critical when it comes to those falls. You know, obviously, there's sometimes an issue when someone falls and they're not near the capability of making that call. So we would, of course, advise for those of you who have more fall hazards in your home or in your life to have an ability nearby at all times to be able to call for help. So next, safety involves where you live. And so we know most of the time that we spend is in our homes and where we live, and we feel like that's our safe place. And we need to know that sometimes we can actually create unsafe situations in our home that we don't realize. And so some of these things we're going to talk about are, we're hoping that you'll go home and check out in your home, or if you're there right now when this is done, take a walk around and look for some of these things. But also those of you who work with those with disabilities or in the aging community, when you go to their homes and when you visit with them, these are some simple things that you can look around for and identify as fire hazards that can very easily be remedied and prevented. So preparing yourself and your home, your safety depends, of course, on your reaction to emergency, like we just talked about, asking for help. And one of the things that we harp on all the time that helps us make that call about calling for help or making that decision on how to react is a working smoke alarm. Smoke alarms have been proven time and time again to be the difference between life and death. Have that in your home, have it current, have it working. When I say current, I mean smoke alarms do expire. If the smoke alarm is older than 10 years old, if that smoke alarm was installed with your home and it was built in the 80s, it's time to update it if you haven't. It's not going to work for you the way that you need it to. So first of all, for those who need to find out if that smoke alarm works, certainly we want to advise if you do not have a ladder or it's maybe not safe for you to be on a ladder, you can use a broom handle to test your smoke alarm. There will be a button, as you can see, that says test. You can press with that broom handle to see if it alarms. If it does, you're in great shape. If it doesn't, this is when we go to the next step. So we need to figure out if it's older and needs complete renovation, if you will, replacement, or if it just needs a new battery. And certainly we are familiar with those smoke alarms that have those 9-volt batteries that will annoy us at 2 o'clock in the morning. We just need to be more proactive to prevent that from happening at 2 a.m. And so what we would advise to do is every time there is a change of our clocks to go ahead and change those 9-volt batteries as well. But if it is time to update that smoke alarm, the 10-year sealed battery smoke alarms are the way to go. You will not have to change that battery. And all you got to do is press that test button, ideally once a month, but twice a year will work. Press that button and make sure that it's working. And so that way, you know that when you are asleep or if you're not present where a fire emergency comes to be in your home, those smoke alarms are absolutely going to let you know what's going on and give you the time to safely escape. And so the next step, of course, we talked about with the ladder and the chair, the best, again, results to try to make sure that smoke alarm is working is using a broom handle to go ahead and press it and test it. And if you do need a new smoke alarm and it's not something that you can prioritize with your finances, our office has Operation Save a Life that helps to get a free smoke alarm. We're going to go over that in just a second on the ways to apply for that. But also, if you do have the means, but you're just nervous about getting up and making that change, you don't have someone you can call to help, the fire department can come and help you change those smoke alarms out. So, you know, for those of you who are helping those who may be in this situation where they don't have the means or help to call, make sure that they have a good contact phone number as well as a person to ask for at the fire department that services them for any kind of help that they need. So the best place for smoke alarms to go is in each bedroom, because the kicker about the smoke alarm is it's really meant to wake us up to not, you know, if we're not knowing that something's going on. And so it's really meant to wake us up and get us aware and out as quick as possible. So you want them in every bedroom. You also want them outside of the bedroom areas, mostly the hallway when we say outside of each sleeping area. You want them on every level of the home, so 2 stories, 1 on each level, and at least 10 feet from the stove, because obviously we know that, just as I mentioned, sometimes things can go a little awry in the kitchen, and we don't want to have those, false alarms that create undue panic or get you aggravated enough to where you try to disable it and then you have one less thing looking out for you. So certainly knowing where those are at, and having more is better than having one or none, but having one is better than having none. So as I mentioned, Operation Save a Life, we have certainly the support of federal grants that we very much appreciate that allow for us to get a significant amount of inventory of these smoke alarms. They are the 10-year sealed smoke alarms. So if you do not have, or if you come across a client or someone that you work with or know that does not have the ability to get a smoke alarm on their own, a lot of the fire departments work with us and we provide them that inventory. So give that local fire department a call first. Ask if they can help with this, if they partner with us. If so, they'll take care of it. If not, you can either give us a call or you can go online and register for a free smoke alarm. And that is installation. We do not hand it out. We come to the home. We have to install it to ensure that it is in the proper place and that it is working to ensure that it will save you when the time comes. We have that link right there. I can revisit it later on in the presentation in the chat as well, because obviously this is not something you can click, or you can just go to our website, which is lasfm.org. And that button you see there, that graphic on the left, is right on the front page. You can click it and it'll bring you right to our registration. And you can see the phone number right there at the bottom, 225-925-4911. So then next, carbon monoxide detectors. This is not something that we have traditionally talked about as it pertains to the way we talk about smoke alarms, but certainly in our more recent years of having really big, strong, problematic hurricanes and storms across our state, we have found that the use of generators, both portable and the new ones that connect right into the home, are much more prevalent. And so we have certainly upped our conversation about generator safety, which we will touch on a little bit later. But the concept of having a carbon monoxide detector, if you are using a generator or have any type of gas appliance in your home, is critical. Those can let you know when something is wrong, because carbon monoxide is the silent killer. It is the invisible killer. You cannot smell it, you cannot see it, you cannot hear it, you cannot taste it. If you are fortunate enough to be awake when a carbon monoxide poisoning is occurring, you will start to feel symptoms, but they're not easily detectable as being related to carbon monoxide. Things like headaches, nausea, dizziness. For those of us, who are on the older end of the community, sometimes those things might be normal daily occurrences that if you get up too fast, you may find yourself dizzy and you might not be able to connect the dots that there's a carbon monoxide issue. So having that detector is critical. And of course, carbon monoxide, what it does is essentially starts to erode the oxygen in the air. And if you are asleep, you definitely will not know something is wrong, because it will eventually just keep you asleep. So for this, we advise having at least one, have it installed on every level. So again, if you have 2 stories, 1 on each level. Have 1 in each bedroom, especially when those bedrooms are in the vicinity of a gas appliance, like if there is a hot water heater or something that is fueled by gas, maybe in the attic, that bedroom that's below it, you want to have 1 there, or a bedroom that's maybe sitting above the garage where a hot water heater might be, or any kind of other appliance, or even a vehicle is parked. Just to be able to track any kind of carbon monoxide that may be going through the levels of the home there. And then, of course, wherever that generator is, you want to have it about 10 feet outside of the door of wherever that generator is. So if you happen to have it, in the backyard somewhere, you want to have it at the back door. So that's just some advice on carbon monoxide detectors. We also have a new law right now in our state that requires any home that is purchased or leased to have at least 1 working carbon monoxide alarm in it. So do know that if you're in the real estate world or in the business of possibly getting into selling or buying a home, those should be there. Fire extinguishers, we absolutely advise having these in your home. They are helpful, very helpful if you have a smaller fire emergency that you do want to take the opportunity to try to address before having to abandon it and call 911. Certainly you want to know where that closest fire extinguisher is. You want to remember where it is. You also want to have it accessible. Certainly one of the biggest places you want to have it is the kitchen. That's probably one of the most, common places for fires to occur, where you can engage very quickly to address it. You also want to know that you have the right kind of fire extinguisher. The A, B, C extinguishers are the most common for household fires. They're going to address things like wood. They're going to address things like paper, things in your kitchen. Stuff like that will work out really well. And certainly fire extinguishers can be found at hardware stores, Walmart, and they come in different sizes as well. You've got smaller ones and you've got larger ones. And so certainly make sure you have one that you can manage well. And the way to use that fire extinguisher is we call the pass method. There's a pin that keeps these protected from, just willy-nilly going off. So you would just pull the pin, you would aim the nozzle at the base of the fire, not the top of the fire, the base of the fire, squeeze the lever, and then sweep it from side to side to make sure you have very good coverage of getting that chemical, that material over the fire to get it completely out. And certainly if we are talking about a kitchen fire, you want to make sure that you would turn the stove off first to prevent you from having an issue with using your stove after the fact, and that you can clean up. So next, just some advice on where some of these things should be. Again, you'll see the flame icon as our smoke and fire detector recommendation. The blue little water dot, if you will, is for the carbon monoxide detector, and then the fire extinguisher for fire extinguisher. So just to revisit there, and a good little breakdown of the different levels of a home where you should be having these. So on one on every level and in every bedroom is the smoke and fire detector. One on every level and in every bedroom, again, certainly on the carbon monoxide detector. And then the fire extinguisher, one on every level at least, especially in the kitchen and the garage. One other look for you of just a breakdown of a home's sort of blueprint of how those look and where those should be. And again, that flame icon is that smoke alarm. You have them in the bedroom, but you also have them in the hallway. And ideally, you want them to be interconnected. So if, for instance, one is going off in the kitchen, but you're sleeping, you want the one in the bedroom to let you know too. Everywhere in the home should go off to let you know what's going on. So let's get into the crux of what we're here for, is home heating safety as it pertains to cold weather. So first of all, we have partnerships with the NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association, as well as the U.S. Fire Administration. They provide a wonderful resource of graphics and talking points and tip sheets. So if you're seeing this and you want to utilize these, get a hold of them, print them out, hand them out as you go. We would love to see that happen. Those are the places where you can find them. And certainly when we're done, I'm going to give you guys my email address and my phone number. So if you want to reach out to me and ask for an easy link to those, I can provide that for you so you don't have to go digging around and trying to find this stuff. But this is one of those tip sheets here, talking about keeping anything that can burn at least 3 feet away from a portable space heater or wood burning stove or fireplace. So this is one of our big things. We know that a lot of folks don't have those traditional heating methods of a heater, an HVAC system. So they'll turn to things like candles or space heaters. And so our big thing on that is making sure that they are far enough away from objects that catch fire easily. And that includes comforters and blankets and couches. Sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to cover myself up with all of these things, but then I'm going to move that space heater real close to me so I can still feel it. The reality is you're creating a fire hazard by putting that heat source very close to these easily, objects that catch fire, and radiant heat can catch them on fire. So in addition, we talk about having, a 3-foot kid-free zone as well. Sometimes those can look very appealing and interesting, and we don't want the children to get burned, but it's sort of the same thing. Keep it 3 to 5 feet from anything that can be harmed. You don't want to, and we unfortunately do have this issue, people do utilize their stoves and their ovens for heating. That is unsafe. You're not attending to it. It's introducing a carbon monoxide threat as well. And then, of course, having that open flame is dangerous. Relative to the space heaters, again, we also advise, and you'll see this in a graphic in a second, making sure they're plugged directly into the wall outlet. And you can actually see that in this graphic. It might be a little small, but this smoke alarm, this portable space heater is plugged directly into the wall outlet. And that's important because they draw a lot of energy. And if you plug those into extension cords or my brain stopped working. I'll think of it in a second. If you plug them into any electrical extension of any sort, those are not made for that high of a draw. And for people who then connect those, we call them daisy chaining them. If you connect them, you're actually drawing that energy out even further and you're making it work harder, which increases the ability for those wires to overheat. And then you have a fire hazard. So the word I was thinking of was a power strip. And when people overload those with too many appliances, or in this instance, putting something that is a very high energy draw through it, you're introducing the possibility of a fire hazard. Certainly with the space heaters, you want to make sure that they're always attended to. So if you are going to sleep, leaving the room, leaving the home, turn it off. It's not okay to leave it on. In addition, some other elements to this tip sheet is talking about having, if you're using a fireplace, making sure that those have been cleaned, inspected, and that the ventilation is open. We've certainly been seeing, for some reason, a lot of instances of individuals starting fires in their fireplaces, but maybe not checking to see that the flue is open, and then the smoke pulling into the home and then really creating a much bigger fire than they're comfortable with and causing a concern, and then fires as well. So make sure all of those types of fireplaces or wood-burning stoves are ready to be used appropriately. And then I think one other item here we have, which is on the fireplaces and wood-burning stoves, make sure you don't overload them with too many logs. 3 is a good number. You just want to make sure that they don't overload and end up, when they change as they burn, rolling out, and then of course creating an active fire right into wherever that fireplace is at. And so the next graphic, just another, visual. And again, I have a lot of these graphics and things that are made already. So if these are things that appeal to you, you want to put on your social media, you want to print out or share with your clients, let me know. I can share all of this material with you, or certainly we put these on our social media so you are able to snag it or share it from there. But this is just a visual example. Instead of just saying, hey, don't put a candle around things that can burn easily, I show you, here's a candle next to a tissue or a paper towel. This could be a problem. People might not see why. You say, oh, it's in a glass jar. How can it be a problem? Well, we all know that sometimes when we go to turn that candle on for the first time, if we use that wick a lot, sometimes it'll pop a little. And if you've got something that can catch very easily near that ember that comes down can catch to that, and then you've got a problem. At the same time, if that candle's going for a long time, that same reaction to that wick can happen, as well as if for some reason the wax gets too close to that candle, the wax will catch, and then you've got a much bigger fire than that little flame there. And then of course you can see that picture on the bottom of the space heater being right into the wall, and the example of all the things not to do. You can see that daisy chaining there and that extension cord and having it right next to a blanket and a carpet, and that's just everything not to do. So then, of course, there's another one that the Weather Service was great to have made recently, staying warm when the power is out. So, giving some suggestions. If you don't have even a generator type of situation, closing the blinds or curtains to keep the heat in, closing off rooms to avoid wasting heat, certainly bundling up with clothes and blankets, making sure that you are keeping up your internal energy by eating and drinking, so you're creating that body heat for yourself. And then, of course, being able to stuff towels or rags under cracks of doors that might be letting some air get in that shouldn't. So we're going to move past now to some more common fire safety elements beyond just the cold weather. But certainly, one more time on the cold weather, those smoke alarms are critical. If something goes wrong, because sometimes we can do everything right, but sometimes things still go wrong. There are electrical fires out there that happen that we don't know, that there might be some wear and tear on wiring, and you just don't know. So having that working smoke alarm is critical to alerting you and your family to get out safely. So moving on to cooking safety, some of those top tips: never leave cooking unattended, just like those space heaters and candles. Don't wear loose clothing while cooking. Sometimes people, might just reach over and not realize that that's going to be a hazard that's going over the food and the flame. Keeping paper copies of recipes away from the cooking area, or things like paper towels or, dish towels as you're cleaning your hands or cleaning as you go, making sure there's a good enough distance away. And then turning pot handles to the inside. And the picture is kind of helpful to that. You just want to make sure that as you pass by an oven or a stove, that you don't accidentally catch that. Or honestly, too, with children, they may come by and they're, of course, not paying attention to everything. They could hit something, or they might be curious and say, "Oh, what's on the stove?" and pull down, and then you've got a scalding type situation. So making sure those pot handles are inward and away from the edge of the stove. And then lastly, don't overload electrical circuits, as we talked about. This was going to come with some of those, appliances that we use in the kitchen these days, those crock pots, those air fryers, those pressure cookers. Make sure that they are right into the wall outlet. Make sure that they are observed and not left plugged in once you're done using them. And just, be aware in the kitchen on grease fires. So the best method, if you've got a small grease fire, is to just put that lid right on top of it. It will suffocate the fire, and then you won't have a problem. It's tricky when you throw water into grease. You're actually going to flare it up. There is oftentimes people talk about using baking soda or baking powder to try to put that grease fire out. You can do that, but sometimes it's not readily available, and sometimes people can confuse flour with the baking soda or baking powder. So best method is to just put that lid over the pot. All right, give me 1 second real quick. I apologize. I am getting a notification of media showing up somewhere that they were not privy to. Hold on 1 second.
Do you want to go ahead and take the 10-minute break?
Well, I don't know. I can tell him give me 10 minutes. Because my timer is telling me there's 10 minutes before that 10-minute break. So we'll keep rolling. They can wait. I'm a former reporter, and I know better not to show up somewhere unannounced, so they can wait. Anyway, back to this.
Actually, the interpreter is going to need to take a break in about 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Well, then in 2 or 3 minutes, we will go ahead and do that. I'll get through this one slide, and then we'll go ahead and take that break, and I'll make that call. But certainly on getting back to the presentation and lighting in your home, having the ability to be able to react. If there happens to be a fire, you need to be able to see where you're going. And this is part of something I'll talk about a little later, in having that home escape plan. And so having these, lights on before you go downstairs or through a hallway, use night lights wherever you can utilize them, and have a flashlight near your bed. You don't want to keep anything near any kind of, lights that do put off any kind of heat, because again, you're creating a heating hazard there, overheating hazard there. But just be mindful of some of these things, using the appropriate size light bulb, and just knowing where these opportunities are to make sure that you don't create a fall hazard for yourself when you're needing to escape. So that way we will go ahead and take a break, and then you guys let me know when you want me to get started again, and I will keep it up, and I will mute myself in the meantime. Alrighty, continuing through our presentation, I will touch just briefly on this next slide, since we have talked about it, but that is the power strip that I couldn't find the words for, the one that's got that on-off button. Not only not putting so many things on that is important, but also knowing what it is that you're putting in it. And at the bottom of those, they usually always say what their maximum is. So knowing what the object is and what its sort of output or draw is, and comparing it to what on the bottom of an extension cord or on a power strip, is helpful to avoid overheating. Okay. So another issue that people don't necessarily consider or think about as being a fire hazard is the cluttering around their home. And the biggest issue here is that this prevents you from getting out easily. It's got things in your way. It's preventing you from getting to the door. It's also adding to the fuel in the home and giving the fire more fuel to grow bigger. So advice here, certainly keeping the house free of unnecessary items and debris. They also can become tripping hazards. We want them not blocking hallways, exits like windows and doors. They got to be, you've got to have, and we'll touch on this in a second again, these home escape plans. We advise for everyone in your home to know 2 ways out of every room in your home. You never know where you're going to be or what's going to be happening when a fire emergency occurs. So you need to have at least 2 ways to consider getting out, and having too much clutter around can prevent not only an opportunity, but it takes more time for you to think through getting around it. So again, we're back to the space heaters, because this is something that people sometimes either don't listen, like hear, don't follow, read, or they don't think it's going to happen to them. And that's our biggest kicker, and over and over. So space heaters, keep them at least 3 feet away from anything that can burn. That includes blankets, comforters, curtains, carpets. I call it all the C's. Unplug those heaters when they're not being used, when you're not in the room, when you're not in the home, when you're going to bed and can't keep an eye on them. Choose a heater, and many of them these days have automatic shutoffs, both when they get too hot and when they tip over. That is a critical help to reduce the fire risk associated with space heaters. And then again, do not use an oven or stove or really any open flame to heat your home. Again, we talked about that chimney maintenance, making sure that your fireplaces are cleaned and inspected at least once a year before you go to use them. Of course, that would address any sort of bird nests or animals that maybe found it to be a nice home in that hot temperature we had in the summer, as well as any kind of soot buildup, and make sure that that ventilation is open and ready to work as it's supposed to. Another thing that we do see, of course, is dryer fires, and those tend to be led by too much lint buildup. So there are definitely companies out there that can come and clean those out, but doing that cleaning of the lint filter every time you use the dryer is an effective way of trying to prevent the ductwork from getting clogged up with lint, which then of course becomes a fire hazard. For those in our older community, we want to make sure that you provide opportunities for yourself to avoid any type of falls, or a way to remedy that fall when it occurs. Having grab bars in the shower and the tubs, having a shower seat, and even a railing or a small little step ladder for the side of your bed, as well as any kind of ramps to entrances or exits on the exterior of your home. And then for those who have, a very fortunate means, having a chair lift for 2-story homes. This is another critical thing people don't necessarily think about a lot, and it is the ability for emergency services to find you. So you want to make sure that they can, and easily, because of course we know when you're calling for help, time is of the essence. Make sure that the address display is easy. And for those of you who do go and work with those who are disabled, or those who are in the older community, you may find this yourself, having trouble finding their home. If you experience this, make a note and make a suggestion to them, or maybe even help them make that address easier to see. Make sure that it's on the mailbox. This says or the home. I would say and the home. Sometimes neighborhoods also put the addresses on the curb. They spray paint it. I would say do that too. There's no harm in being able to help find your home if there's an emergency. Okay. And then this is something that's sort of an emerging conversation across the country. They title it "Close Before You Doze." The thought process is that when you have your door closed and a fire occurs, Truly, it is protecting you certainly from the heat, as you can see, and the flames, but more importantly, it's that smoke. The smoke is what ends up being most deadly in a home fire. So you want to have the opportunity to keep those things out and away from you as much as possible to give you more time to escape, because that smoke alarm will have to let you know something is going on in the other part of the house. So in the event of a fire, a closed door can limit the spread of flames by restricting the oxygen, and this can allow, again, more time to react and to get out. As it pertains to falling, the ability to call for help, we mentioned this a little earlier before. Consider having a fall alert device worn around your neck, or these days, cell phones have the ability to engage them by voice, having that Siri function, or even if you've got some Alexa devices, Amazon related devices rather. And even sometimes these days, security systems in homes can be voice activated as well. Just make sure you've got the ability to call for help if you find yourself in a position where you can't physically reach for a phone or another means of asking for help. Speaking of cell phones, a lot of times we actually have this conversation with teenagers. They, for some reason, like to charge their cell phones underneath their pillows. And as you can see here, that can create an overheating hazard as that charging is occurring, especially for aftermarket chargers, which can then catch the material of that pillow on fire, which our faces are on. So then we're creating a burn hazard for our faces to start with. So keeping your phone within reach is great. Having it charging next to the bed is fine. In the bed, under a pillow, on a pillow, not fine. Again, that heat generated from that charging phone can't go elsewhere, so it just builds up until it ignites. And again, cell phones and laptops, any kind of electronic device that puts off heat as it is charging, needs to be on a flat, stable surface that does not have combustible items around it. And take your time. This is both, as I mentioned the other day with my husband's situation in the kitchen, having that panic and moving too fast can create more of an issue. So take your time when you're trying to react, whether it is an emergency or any other time. Being rushed or distracted increases the chances of falling or creating another hazard. Get out of chair slowly. Take a moment before you get out of bed. Stand and get your balance before you walk. Make sure you have the correct size shoe, and exercise regularly to keep up that physical reaction timing. This is, certainly for anyone who is relying upon medication for, your ability to react and function. You want to make sure you're taking the correct dose at the correct time. Having any kind of over or under medication can cause, health effects that will affect your reaction. And so that could be drowsiness, lightheadedness, confusion, lack of judgment. And then, using something like a pill box to organize your medication is very helpful to try to avoid some of these issues. Another issue that we do see is individuals smoking indoors, especially those who are on oxygen therapy. This is one of those situations where people do not believe that it can happen to them. And so they don't pay attention to these kinds of warnings. And it can happen, and it does happen. So certainly best to quit smoking altogether. But if you are a smoker, always smoke outside. Don't smoke indoors. Use a sturdy ashtray. Soak those cigarettes in water before throwing them away. Make sure all of these smoking materials are not able to be reached or seen by children. And definitely teach children that fire is not a toy. It is not fun. It is not curious. And these objects, lighters, etc., are not for children to touch ever. And to report to an adult if they come across them. And then for evacuating from a fire, I mentioned this before, having that home escape plan, have a route, and especially for those who have disabilities or any kind of mobile impairments or those who are older. Having this known and practiced route is critical for you because there are some exceptions for you. Sometimes you got to utilize additional means of moving. So you need to have a walker or a wheelchair, or you need someone's assistance, or you need to be aware of where things are around your home if you don't, have the greatest vision or have some visual impairments. You need to be familiar with where the table is or where the chair is or where the couch is, so that can lead you to those exits and that you won't create a fall hazard for yourself, delaying that exit. So make sure you have a plan. A fire department can help you create that plan, or family members. And if you've got family members who have any type of disabilities or just some challenges that may make their escape a little different, make sure that you help them come up with a plan and practice it with them when you visit them. Again, having those 2 routes out of every home is critical. If there is someone who does have walker or wheelchair need, make sure you have some help, some extra options for them to be able to get out. And then once you get out, stay out. If there is a fire, that big thing we've always been taught as kids is to stop, drop, and roll. But the reality is that we're not going to end up with fire on us. That's when that helps. The key is to get away from that smoke. So get low and go is the new buzzword that we've got going when it comes to escaping from fire. And just a little bit of touching here. Again, I was mentioning that this program is called the Golden Boot, and it was really created for our senior citizens. And so it's all encompassing, but I have changed it a little bit for today's presentation. And so we did mention a little earlier about generator safety. And so when we come across a situation where we're out of power or we're expecting to be out of power, as I mentioned, generators are a very common use these days when it comes to storms and in those nature. So if you're using a generator, someone brings you a generator, portable, or you have a whole home generator that's installed, you want to make sure for the portable ones that you do not put them in the house. That means the garage too, even if the garage door is open. Think of the carbon monoxide that you cannot see building up like smoke from a fire, and it gets contained in that space. And then it's going to start seeping into your home and creating a carbon monoxide poisoning problem for you that you cannot see, you cannot smell, you cannot taste. So having that on an enclosed porch, also a bad idea. The key is 20 feet away from the home with the exhaust pointed away from windows and doors. And some things that people had to learn, unfortunately, with an incorrect installation of these whole home generators is that they were installed a little too close to the home or near a dryer vent or near, a lower hanging type of attic vent. And so that carbon monoxide was getting into the home that way and causing a problem, even though the perception was that those whole home generators were much safer. So make sure that those are installed in the right location, and you can also have those installers come back out to inspect that location as well. So back to the portable generators, turn them off, let them cool before refueling. Remember that carbon monoxide detector. And then if you're going to have a generator that's sort of kept where some of the generator accessories are, including fuel, make sure that they are stored separately, distance-wise, at least 6 feet away, to make sure that you don't create any kind of hazard where that gas can become ignitable with the fuel. Okay, lastly, this is just something we had to talk about because we talked about it a lot this year, is burn bans. In these instances, we're asking individuals to consider not burning trash or your outside vegetation during these burn bans, because the elements of the air and the ground are conducive for fires to get out of control. And we have unfortunately seen individuals who have died during open burning because these fires got out of control and they tried to control it and they got consumed with the smoke. So if there's a burn ban, please just don't burn anything. And that's, of course, outside of your home. And that's for those who generally live in rural areas that like to, clean up their properties, get all those branches and things that have fallen during the winter time, put them into a pile and burn them to get rid of that debris. But during a burn ban, it is critical not to do that, because there are elements, again, that will take that fire out of the environment that you intended it to stay in and cause a much bigger problem for your property, possibly your neighbor's property, and your life. And then lastly, when burn bans do get called, they are in conjunction, they're us, but we're in conjunction with the Department of Ag and Forestry. And so my last slide is just some helpful resources for you all. relative to some of the best places to get information. Again, this is from the Golden Boot program, but if you're in need of help from the smoke alarm perspective, there's our phone number there. Also, the Red Cross has a smoke alarm program as well, so you can reach out to them too. And then, of course, your councils on aging for those that may want to try to coordinate better when you find some senior citizens that are your clients or in your community that maybe need more help that they realize. You can reach out to the councils on aging to try to get them connected. And then I don't have a slide for my contact information, but I will put that in the chat. And then I'm going to step back and let those who are hosting tell me how you want to guide the comments that have been going in the chat if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Ashley. We do have a a question in regards to the smoke alarms for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. And I'm gonna turn off my camera because I have this weird, we have new computers with the new administration and it's very weird.
Okay, I can answer this for sure. So smoke alarms for the deaf and hard of hearing community. Great news is that with our most recent federal grant, we were given the ability to buy 100 of those. And so we are going to be accessing those here shortly. I do have the fortunate opportunity to have a great relationship with the Commission on the Deaf and Jana Broussard over there. I did make her aware that we had this opportunity and actually have plans to coordinate with her to try to locate those who would be in need for those. But also do reach out to the local fire departments because they have the ability to get these grants as well, or even have some of these devices donated to them. I know Lafayette Fire Department has always been very good about having that opportunity. So reach out to them first. If they don't have that for you, reach out to us. As I mentioned, we've got that inventory. And while it is just 100, we do plan on continuing to have that inventory. So we can start a list of those who need it if we run out before we have it. But we want to know who needs them and how we can try to help get them. And certainly, as I mentioned again, if you are someone that works with the Commission for the Deaf, and you can reach out to Jana Broussard to get that coordination going. When we reach out to her, she may have that list that she can provide us and you can get taken care of that way.
And Karen Scallon just put a couple of suggestions. So one was fire ladders for second story or raised homes, and they're available at places like Home Depot, and also to plan for evacuation of someone who is immobile if their chair is inaccessible, possibly a blanket to pull them outside. SafeKids.org has videos on fire and other safety for a variety of types of disabilities. And how to safely evacuate someone with an intellectual disability. Those are good suggestions. Thanks, Karen. I don't see any other comments or questions, but if you have any and you want to unmute yourself to ask them, you can do so right now. We have a couple minutes.
I did see someone ask for a copy of the presentation, which I can provide. I did put my email address and phone number in the chat if you want to reach out to me and I can send that directly. Or I don't know if you guys hosting want me to send it to you and then you provide it to those who registered. It's whatever you guys want to do. I did have, and we ran out of time, but I did have a video that we had put together for this program. And it is, again, specific to senior citizens, but it was just to go over all the things that we just talked about. It was kind of giving a visual of all these different kind of hazards that generally exist in the homes of senior citizens. And what we do with this program is once we give all this information, we have them watch the video and ask them to identify the problem spots. And then once the video is over, we talk about those problem spots and then show them the video a second time with those spots highlighted. So if anyone's interested in having this presentation made to your senior citizens groups or centers, please let me know. Or if you'd like me to send you the original presentation with that video as part of it as the wrap up so you can make the presentation to your groups, I am absolutely happy to share that.
Ashley, if you would send that to me, I will be sending an email out to everyone who attended, so I can send that in the follow-up email.
Sure thing.
Looks like we have a couple of comments. Oh no, this is directly to me. I live in a rental that I know the fire alarm's over 10 years old, and I don't trust myself to link them all together. is it okay to ask the landlord or fire department to help install? I have a child with autism.
I would say absolutely. And I would hope that that landlord would not only see the value of having their property brought up to the appropriate code, as I believe that it needs to be for them, but also to ensure your safety and to improve the quality of that home, that the value of that home for them to have those, you know, newer systems in place. Smoke alarms these days might run about $20. I don't know the cost of interconnecting them into an entire, you know, home. It may, of course, be a little bit more costly, but at the end of the day, for us, we would certainly say that the, you know, life is priceless. And the value that is added to a home by having these safety systems is beneficial to landlords. So I would definitely reach out to them and ask for their ability to improve their property that that person is currently living in. But the fire department can also help do installations. I don't know if they can help with the interconnecting because that tends to sound like it would be an electrician thing, and you definitely want to utilize a licensed electrician for work like that. But I would definitely start with your landlord.
Ashley, thank you so much for the presentation. Thanks. I just want to say that this presentation, that the Lunch and Learn is done through really a great collaboration. Of course, we have a state agency, the State Fire Marshal's office, who gave the presentation. With the transition of the administration, I wasn't sure what was going to be happening, so the GOSEP pitched in and set up the Zoom, and a community partner, the ARC of Louisiana, provided the interpreters so we can get this scheduled. So it really shows like true collaboration and what we should be doing in emergency response and preparedness. And so again, thank you, Ashley. If anyone has any recommendations for future Lunch and Learns, please email me. I'll send out you guys all an email. So if you don't have my email address, you can email me. But we don't have one scheduled for February yet. So if you have a great idea, send that right away. We'd like to get that scheduled. So I think that's all that I have. But thank you guys, and have a great rest of the week, and try and stay dry.
Thank you all.